Folks, you agree with me, I'm sure. Enough is enough is enough. We have to stand up. I don't want to hear about, well, we can't take it on because it's too politically dangerous. The world has changed. The American public has changed.
That was Vice President Joe Biden speaking about the obligation for stricter gun laws in the wake of the Newtown Elementary School shooting. Good evening and welcome to this Reality Check special. Tonight we're talking about the issue of gun control. It's an issue that's captured headlines across the nation for about 2 months now. Shortly after the Sandy Hook shooting, in which 20 children died along with 6 adults, President Obama put VP Joe Biden in charge of a task force to come up with solutions so that tragedies like Sandy Hook would never happen again. Biden has met with the NRA, law enforcement, the entertainment industry, school districts, and many more, which is partly why he grabbed headlines this week when he was caught off camera saying this.
What we're going to do is going to fundamentally alter or eliminate the possibility of another mass shooting or guarantee that we will bring gun deaths down to 1,000 a year from what it is now.
That statement is fairly interesting because it was on February 3rd when Biden was caught saying that these measures may not change anything when it comes to gun violence. It was also on the 6th of February, 3 days later, when he was in front of the crowds, once again saying enough is enough. Just a few days after the Sandy Hook shooting, we posed the question, do gun control laws really have to do with gun control? Here's a look back at that reality check. In the days after the Connecticut school shooting, there's been a lot of talk about the need for gun control laws to be more strict across the nation. And this is a highly charged issue. Some say stricter laws would protect the innocent, and others say it would do nothing but take guns away from law-abiding citizens. Tonight, we investigate the numbers in a reality check you won't see anywhere else. The language being used by gun control advocates, politicians, and many in the national media all sounds the same. We need to get angry about what happened in Connecticut. We must take serious action, they say, to prevent this from ever happening again. One of the toughest issues here is to separate the emotion from fact, because it's easy to be angry at guns. But does that anger make sense? To be angry at the tool and not the user. Do you know how many gun-related deaths we have in America each year? According to the FBI's number for 2011, which is the last number where numbers are available, there were 12,664 murders in the U.S. Of those, 8,583 were caused by firearms, which means that 4,081 were committed without a firearm. Now let's stick to the numbers of firearm deaths. Nearly 8,600 murders committed with a firearm in 2011. Now, the thinking is that if there were stricter gun laws, these 8,600 deaths, or many of them at least, would have been prevented. But is that true? Well, not necessarily. While guns are the most common tool used for murder, the second most common are knives and cutting objects. And the third, believe it or not, are fists and feet. But there is a bigger issue here. If guns are so dangerous of a tool that society must rid itself of them, is that true of other dangerous tools? While there are under 8,600 gun-related murders in the United States for 2011, there are over 11,000 drunk driving-related deaths, according to the New York Times. That means 2,500 more people are dying at the hands of drunk drivers than guns. So where's the outrage from Piers Morgan of CNN about legal alcohol for those drunk drivers? Where are the calls from Mayor Michael Bloomberg of New York to have a serious debate about banning cars? After all, there are 38,000 traffic deaths in the country every year. Well, what this means for you is that no one is going to move to take your car away, because people will say, well, cars and guns, it's apples and oranges. After all, you need a car to get around, but you don't need a gun. Cars serve many purposes, but guns, they say, serve only one. That argument is not only untrue, but it serves to demonstrate the difference in worldview. Those who are calling for a ban on assault weapons and handguns are doing so because they believe that the greater good in society will be served by removing guns, even though the numbers show the greater good would be better served by removing all cars. The argument over guns isn't really over guns at all. It's over whether or not the individual in America has rights. Rights to speech, rights to property, rights to keep and bear arms. We hear a lot about sovereign states these days, but the truth is, in the eyes of the founders, You are the sovereign. You have rights that no society, no government, and even the greater good cannot take away from you. And that is Reality Check.
Still ahead, guns and violent crime make national headlines. But could conceal and carry permits help reduce the bloodshed? We'll investigate Ohio's numbers. Still ahead.
When people tell me that you can't prevent these kinds of occurrences, that doesn't mean we can't do something to, God forbid if it happens again, diminish the carnage. It matters. It matters.
And that was Vice President Joe Biden making a pitch to Democrats in Congress. Biden attempting to rally lawmakers behind President Obama's gun violence proposals during a retreat Wednesday evening. Now, Biden has been charged to lead a task force that President Obama is calling on to help reduce gun violence. Chances are that commission will not come back with a recommendation for more concealed carry permits as part of the answer. But should they? A few weeks ago, we investigated Ohio's concealed carry numbers. Here's a look back at that reality check. The debate over gun control is not new, but there is newer data that may show a direct correlation between concealed carry weapons and a drop in crime. Let's talk about the state of Ohio. I looked up the numbers on crime statistics from 1960 to 2011. Now, these stats give raw numbers, but what is surprising in those numbers is that between 2003 and 2011, even though the population rises for the state of Ohio every year but one, crime is steadily on the decline. So why take the years 2003 to 2011? Because it was in April of 2004 when Ohio passed its concealed carry law. So back to the crime numbers. In 2003, the year before CCWs were issued, there were 526 murders in Ohio, compared to 479 in 2010 and 513 in 2011. Forcible rapes, they were at 4,660 in 2003. But since the concealed carry permits began being issued, those numbers have dropped every single year but one. In 2011, there were 1,029 fewer rapes than in 2003. Aggravated robberies, well, those are also steadily on the decline. In 2003, 16,895 aggravated robberies. In 2011, 16,057. That's a difference of 838 aggravated robberies. Now, we could go on, but suffice to say, crime is down in every single category in Ohio except for one, burglary, where property is stolen from a home or a business. Now, what these stats do not say definitively is whether or not the concealed carry weapons are the reason for the drop. It is true the surge in permits issued does correlate to the drop in crime, and yet there's no way to know for sure what other factors could play a role. Okay, but even if concealed carry permits might be helping to lower crime, the president's task force is designed to prevent mass shooting tragedies. Can concealed weapons stop that? Well, maybe. A week ago, 22-year-old Jacob Tyler Roberts walked into the Clackamas Town Center Mall just outside of Portland, Oregon. Roberts was armed with an AR-15 rifle and he opened fire inside the mall. He killed 2 people and wounded a third before taking his own life. Now, what most of the media has not told you is why Roberts killed only 2 people before killing himself. Portland TV station KGW has reported that another 22-year-old was in the mall at the same time. Nick Mealy, who has a concealed carry permit, was nearby when Roberts opened fire. Mealy pulled his weapon. He aimed it at the shooter, but he didn't shoot the gunman because there were bystanders who could have been injured. He told this to the TV station, quote, "I'm not beating myself up because I didn't shoot him," said Mealy. "I know after he saw me, the last shot he fired was the one he used to kill himself." So what this means for you is that while the rise in concealed carry permits is increasing in Ohio, violent crime is not. And while media and politicians are demanding a serious debate on gun control, it is fair to ask, shouldn't a serious debate look at these kinds of numbers and ask whether more guns in the hands of responsible Americans is part of the answer? And that is Reality Check.
Still ahead, the president has big plans for tighter gun control laws. But will they be enforced? Why some local sheriffs won't be following presidential orders. Still ahead.